Welcome back to episode 3 of Coveney Speaks. This is a podcast. This is an opportunity for us to bring on trailblazing women to share their stories. A key theme that we've been focusing on is breaking barriers and turning pain into power, which I think we've all done in our lives. Today's incredible guest is a multifaceted woman. Zinhle Mayeni is a chartered accountant, a senior audit manager at AGSA, and a career coach. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Coveney. Thank you for having me.
It's a great honor to have you. I know you've shared some of your insights earlier on, very interesting insights on Boss Babes of South Africa, and I know you spoke a lot about finding your true purpose.
Yeah.
And maybe let's start off there because I think it's such a difficult question to answer. What is our purpose? Why are we here?
Yeah.
We're surely not here on earth randomly. Tell us a bit about that and how it leads us towards our life's purpose.
Yeah. So with me as well, it took me a while to discover my purpose, even though I sort of knew what I was good at from a young age. I think from my previous video, I did share that I used to speak until I got to preaching. But it took me a while to really discover what my purpose is until I had a mentor later on, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where they spoke a lot about, purpose and finding fulfillment in the work that you do. Yes. And I resonated with what they were saying, because you can't really be happy if you're not living your purpose, if you're not doing what God has called you to do. That's why we get ourselves being so unhappy. Even at work, you're just never going to be happy. You're going to keep complaining, being unsatisfied, because there's just that thing lacking. You're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing. So for me, I think, purpose is important. I know we've got various jobs. I'm a career coach. We've got various jobs, but I think somewhere you just have to fit in your purpose. And it starts with really discovering it first.
And who you are and what you're all about.
Correct. Yeah. It takes a lot because it takes a lot of reflecting. You just have to look deep inside yourself, and then it's a process, but eventually you get there. Because even with me, even after interacting with my mentor and getting taught these things, it wasn't easy for me to really discover my purpose and know that, this is my purpose. It just takes a lot of reflecting, and eventually you get to say, no, this is really what I'm supposed to do.
I think it's one of those difficult questions we've got to answer in life. Yeah. I'm still evolving. I thought my purpose was something, and I think every year I go through, I learn so much from life that my purpose sort of shifts. It doesn't change completely, but it shifts.
Yeah, that's the other thing, because purpose, it's not like one thing. It definitely does shift. As we grow, as we experience other things, it actually does shift. So it's not really one thing. So you might find that at a certain age, you have a different purpose, and then as you grow, your purpose differs. So it's not just one thing. But there is that core, I would say.
Yes.
There is that core, because deep down that for example, if I love teaching, that's your core, but then there would be these other things, in life, which will then, how do I put it? For example, if you get married and you get children, then your purpose will differ, but then you'll always have your core, one thing that that, no, this is what I'm supposed to do.
This is what I stand for.
Yeah,
yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I've recently started to venture into mentoring and coaching as well. Yes. I think it was just the next step for me, having years of experience, 15 years of experience that, I really wanted to give back and, empower young females, especially women of color, because I think, our challenges are quite unique.
Yeah, that's true.
What are some of the barriers that you had to break, in your career as a woman of color?
For me, I think I've got two. Right. For me, I'm just going to start before I even, became a CA, before I even went to varsity. I lived in a community, a very small community called Darnell. And I didn't really have anyone to look up to there, because even getting a degree, you did not get people with degrees there. Right. There was just a few families that had people with degrees, and those people would then go to Durban or Joburg or overseas. So you really just have no one to look up to. Right. And for me, there was a barrier in itself because I just don't have an example. Right. But then I just had that belief that no, I can actually achieve something greater than what I'm used to, what I see every day. So I think that in itself is a barrier. The fact that we didn't really have examples to look up to. The only thing that was important at that time was just, I don't know, finishing matric and then finding a job. That's really what people in my community were focusing on. And if you're a female, yes, finish matric, find a job, get married. That's just the focus. And for me, really, it was a barrier because that's just the norm in my community. And I had to break through that and say, no, I want more than what's here. And then later on in my career, another barrier for me, it's a personal one, it's fear, Kovini. It's fear of failure. I think for a long time, I used to just be scared to try new things, scared to pursue opportunities just because I was fearing that I'm going to fail. So for me, that was a barrier in my career, because if you're fearing failure, you're just not going to try anything. You're not going to put your hand up for anything because you just have that fear that, oh God, I'm going to fail. So that's something that I had to break, that fear, through things like, I think mentoring, yes, also therapy, but also just growing, and, just being self-aware and realizing all these things or these self-limiting beliefs and all of that. Just growing, it helps you to realize that, no, man, this is not... I'm just not going anywhere. I'm not going to go anywhere if I keep on with this mindset. So I had to sort of break through that fear, the fear of failing, thinking that, no, but I won't be good enough. No, let others do that, not me. So things like that, I had to really break through that. And another fear for me, which I think I'm still breaking, it's networking. I think networking is very important, especially in our profession. Yeah. And for me, I used to just, being an introvert, I used to really shy away from that. Events, even office events, I used to not attend. Right. And I think my stint or my time at BDO really helped me, because they really emphasize this thing of, networking and attending events. So I think that's like one thing I really appreciate from being there, because it's a big thing there, because you need to network, for client purposes as well, bringing in business, so those types of things. So I learned from there, and I'm still continuing. I'm forcing myself to attend networking events and, even office events, because, at the office, the people at the office are really our networks. I mean, if later you go on to another career or you want to go into business, these people will be your networks. So I think that's the other barrier, really, fear of networking. I had to sort of break through that, because, it does limit us when we don't have those, good networks in our careers, especially in this profession that we're in. We need these networks. We need each other actually to grow. Yeah. Correct. So I think for me, those are the barriers that I had to break through. There's a whole lot more, but I just wanted to just focus on these ones, which I felt were really limiting for me.
And I know you mentioned therapy, and I don't shy away from talking about it. I know there's such a stigma around mental health, but, therapy has been a really big help for me this year. I've had a challenging year. And, I think we need to embrace the fact that when we need help, it's okay to go and get the help from, a professional, a trained professional. It's given me a new perspective on life. It's made me stronger. It's made me braver. What are some of the, learnings that you've gained from going to therapy?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is just self-awareness, just knowing who you are, and then knowing your, what do I call it? But I think we all have these things that require deep work in our lives. Indeed. So just being aware of that. I just don't have a word for now, But then I think it's just, self-awareness for me. I think that's the biggest thing, because when you are self-aware, you're able to know what's the issue that you're going through. And also, you actually become aware of your triggers, because sometimes there's many things that happen. I'm just going to make examples of the workspaces. There's many things that happen in the workplace, and you know what would trigger you, so you're able to better manage, for example, your emotions and stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing for me from therapy is self-awareness. And I actually agree with you. Therapy, it's the best thing to do. I think I'm not even sure why people shy away from it, because we take care of our bodies, we eat, we exercise just to take care of our bodies. But I feel like we neglect our mental health, our minds, because if we want our bodies to be healthy, our minds also need to be healthy, and we do that through therapy, really.
I actually look forward to spending time with my therapist simply because she's so aligned. And I think that's also important when you going to therapy, is to find someone who resonates with you, who's aligned with you, who you can share your lived experiences and they get it, they understand it. So it took me a few tries to find the right therapist that works for me and the challenges that I've been experiencing. So I think it's very important to get someone who's quite diverse in terms of their thinking.
Definitely, because that's with me as well. I actually went to, I think, 2 therapists before I found the one that I really connected with. So it's really important to find the right therapist. That one is key. And I think I forgot to mention the other thing that came out for me with therapy, it's meditation.
Wow.
Yeah, I think she taught me this thing of meditation, which I wasn't really doing before. Even now, I don't do it as consistent as I should, but that thing, it really does help. We are always in stressful situations at work, and when you just take those 10 minutes to just quiet your mind, sit still and meditate, it really does a great deal of work. So meditation, that's another thing that I got out of therapy, which I'm using.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the tools that they share with you are just, you've got to go and you've got to learn for yourself what tools work for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, I know that we are triggered. We are triggered by different things. And if you don't address that, it kind of stays inside of you.
Yeah.
And then one day it explodes. And you don't want that happening.
And we do get leaders like that, unfortunately. So I guess they need therapy.
Correct. They say often it's not the right people that are going to therapy. The people that should be going into therapy don't go. And therefore it leads, the people that are bearing the brunt of their behavior.
And then they end up going to
They
therapy.
have to end up going to therapy. It's just, I just wish everyone embraced it a bit more and, took it seriously, because it really is life-changing.
Yeah, definitely. No, it is. It is.
So tell us, as a career coach and a mentor, what are some of the challenges that, women of South Africa are kind of facing today? What are some of the themes that you see a lot of?
I think a challenge that I'm noticing, because the market that I'm sort of in, I normally focus on women that are coming from the rural areas, because that's where I'm coming from.
Right.
So whatever was limiting me, I just try to help those similar women. And I'm noticing that the biggest thing, or the biggest challenge that is a barrier, for example, to our growth, it's confidence. I think a lot of women are just not confident. You'll find, a male in a similar position just getting ahead just because, they just speak and they are confident. And sometimes even if what they're saying isn't really... I won't say correct, but, sometimes the males will just speak because they've got that confidence. Yes. And on our side as women, we just, shrink back. I think I've noticed that even with the ladies, because I mentor mostly women, even with the ladies that I've been mentoring, confidence has been the biggest issue, where they would say that, no, I don't speak up at work. And you find that, no, it's really an issue with confidence. So I think... with the women that I coach, that is really the biggest issue or the challenge that they seem to be facing. Yeah.
Wow. I think I struggled with confidence in the beginning. I struggled with the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And the reason I struggled with it is because I would enter rooms that I was the only person that looked like me.
You see, yeah.
And that would make me think, why am I here? I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
I would term myself to be a so-called fraud, which is what the imposter syndrome is all about.
Yeah.
We don't believe that we're worthy of being in the spaces that we find ourselves in. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, imposter syndrome, that's also something I struggled with and I've overcome. I think I once heard someone say that the fact that you have imposter syndrome, it means that you are growing. It means that you in the next level, because it always comes when you've just entered your next level. And then once you get there, you see all these people who don't look like you, or you see all these big people and you're like, oh God, what am I doing here? And then that woman said that, I think it was Nozipho Shabalala. She came to our church last year or the year before. And then, she was like, the fact that you've got imposter syndrome, it means that you're now somewhere in your next level. And for me, that really helped me, because at that time I was still, just coming out of that phase where I was still struggling with the imposter syndrome. And then, she just gave me a different perspective. And I agreed with her, because, the only time you have imposter syndrome, you won't have it when you're just there sitting comfortably in your position, doing what you've always been doing. But the minute you go to your next, that's where the imposter syndrome will come, where you'll just feel like you're not supposed to be there. But the fact that you are there means that you should be there. You've earned it. So
you're meant to be there.
You're meant to be there. Yeah. So for me, I think that just changed how I looked at things, and I don't think I suffer anymore with imposter syndrome. And just to link with that fear of failure, now I just go into things, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's also good. I'm just going to learn from it. But I just don't shy away now from, just growing and doing things.
Yeah, I think we need to take that leap forward. And I think as women, we just need to be kinder to ourselves, One failure doesn't mean that you failed in life.
Definitely.
And life is full of ups and downs. You're going to fail. Like, if you're listening to this, there is no way you're going to go through life with a ton of green lights all the way to wherever you're going. You are going to fail, but I think what's important is how you choose to rise and how you choose to turn that painful experience into something more inspirational. How do you use that experience to teach people either not to, end up in that situation, or, how to deal with that situation, which I think is a big part of mentoring and coaching.
Yeah, definitely.
Often we assume that, what we know, everyone knows.
Yeah.
And, the wealth of knowledge that we both have as CAs and, working in these huge companies, you gain a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience. And I think by sharing that, we're actually enhancing the profession as a whole.
Yeah, correct.
We're actually helping people to feel like they belong, they fit in.
Yeah.
We're creating an inclusive environment where, they get the support that they need.
No, I agree with you. And I think it's not only with our profession, actually. I think another lady shared with me that she was sitting with a doctor who was speaking about the same things, imposter syndromes and all of that. So it's not just us, it's everywhere, all these professions, especially with women. There's just always that thing that, that makes us feel like, oh God, I don't belong. So it's everywhere. And it's something that we really need to address, which we are addressing. We're doing our part through, the mentoring, the coaching.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Even though it's not a full solution, just to be able to give your time to something, a cause, something bigger than ourselves. I think it feels amazing. I've just started, and I've just had 2 clients so far at the time of recording this. And it's just felt so fulfilling to be able to give back.
It really does. I shared in my previous video that after a coaching session, it just feels amazing, because you're like, oh God, I've just done something for someone else to grow. It really does,
And tell me, Zinhle, what has been the biggest, lesson you've learned in 2023 so far? I think we've all learned a ton. I speak for myself. But what has been like the key lesson that you've learned this year?
2023, yeah, no, there's a lot. But I think the key one, it's just having that learning attitude. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, just having that learning attitude. And that's really my, I don't know, I think it's a life motto or something, but I just always have a learning attitude. So I started a new position at AG in the
Right.
middle of the year. And yes, it's AG. I've been at AG before, but then it's a completely different environment, completely different and unique clients. And, there's various challenges. And I think one thing that has helped me so far is just that learning attitude to know that, okay, if there's a challenge or a unique challenge, I don't have to be stressed about it or put myself down because something has happened. But if I've got a learning attitude to say that, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How am I going to do things differently going forward? I think that's just one thing I've learned, to just always have a learning attitude, to just learn from experiences and don't let experiences put you down or define you and all of that. You just learn and just grow and move forward, because that's the only way we grow. I think if we've got like a smooth sailing road, it's just, I don't think there's growth there. It's the challenges and all these things that help us to grow. So for me, just always learning, just
Yes.
never stopping that, that learning attitude. That's one thing I've learned in 2023, which I will apply forever, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I never think that even as CAs, as professionals, we've arrived. There's just so much we can learn from
Definitely. Yeah.
the experiences, the people around
Yeah.
us. I think looking at everything as an opportunity rather than a challenge is where
Definitely.
you need to change your mindset and say, okay, what is this here to teach me? I'm a huge Oprah fan. I talk about it in every interview. And, she says, what is this experience here to teach me?
Yeah,
As
definitely.
painful as it is when you're going through it, it's there for a reason.
True, true.
It's not random.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I listened to someone yesterday or something. I always listen to things in the morning, whether it's
Right.
YouTube videos or sermons. And that person was saying that the minute you think that you have arrived,
Yes.
then you are in trouble. When we think we have arrived, then I just don't know. That's when we die, actually. Because, yeah, yes, we are CAs. We've gotten this title. Yes, we've got these nice positions in our workplaces, but we're forever growing. There's never a point where we can say that we have arrived, because there's always something, there's always something new that we have to conquer and all of that. So the minute that we say that we have arrived, then it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's career limiting, right?
It is, yeah.
Mind limiting.
It is, yeah.
I think that's a great attitude to go into
Yeah.
2024. What are some of your hopes for women in the workplace in 2024?
I've said before, I just want women to be more confident. I feel like, yes, there's a lot of things that we do for women. There's a lot of organizations that address the issues that women face. But I'm in the work environment and I still see um, situations where women sort of shrink when there's, these males and they are just outspoken and all of that. Yes, there are women who don't do that, who do great things, but there are still women like that. So I just want to see women being more confident, being more bold, to just pursue what they are called to do, and yeah, to just contribute in the organizations and just coming out with that boldness and not fearing anything, not fearing failure,
Yes.
not fearing anything really.
People.
Yeah, not fearing people.
Bullies.
Yeah, because they exist in the
They
workplace.
exist. Unfortunately, they exist
Yeah, they
in the
actually
world,
exist.
And I think sometimes standing up and speaking out for yourself, speaking your
Definitely,
truth, is the only way that you can start to drive awareness and change certain spaces. I'm a huge advocate of transformative change. I speak about it all the time. And I think, diversity, equity, inclusion has a big part to play in that. But I think what's even bigger is belonging, feeling a sense of belonging
Yes.
when you enter a particular space or you sit at a particular table. Belonging is something you feel.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you.
Okay. I just want to quickly see what else. I'm just pausing here, Jess. Are there any other questions you'd like me to ask? Please help me.
I think you had the one on owning your power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Okay. So essentially, you know, I think women owning their power in 2024 is really important. How do women, irrespective of what industry they're in, own their power? You know, show up as their full authentic selves, which is something I'm so passionate about, and just shine. How do we do that?
Yeah, I think you've already, in a way, you've sort of answered that question, because I wanted to say the same thing, just showing up as your true, authentic self. Because really your power, it's your truest, honest, and authentic self. So for me, I think that it's firstly just knowing who we are, because a lot of times it starts from being a teenager, early 20s. We're just, trying to be like our peers. We're just trying to be like somebody else. We're trying to do what others are doing. And I think it's really important that you really... Can I just put this on silent? Yeah.
Say that last line again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying that we normally just like, doing what other people around us are doing. It starts from teenage years when we just want to fit in and all of that. So we end up not being true to who we truly are, and we just want to imitate what others are doing. And really your true power, it's being your true self, your authentic self. And I think women, we all have to come to that space where we really, first of all, know who we are, so that we lead, in our truest self, if there's something like that. But we just have to lead knowing exactly who we are. I'm just going to make an example. In the workplace, there's a lot of women who lead, and there's just this notion that they have to be, I don't want to use that word, but they just have to be badass and nasty for them to be recognized.
Yes.
And I know that sometimes we might try to imitate that and say, no, but if I really want to go higher, I need to also be like that. But honestly, if that's not who you are, it's just not going to work. I think we all need to recognize who we are and just lead, being our true selves, lead, and we're going to succeed if we do that. And if really you are in a work environment that really doesn't embrace your true self and who you really are, I always advise people that that's really when you need to then go and just find a place or an environment that will embrace who you are, that will not force you to be something you are not. Because we are always effective as leaders when we are just true to ourselves, when we are authentic, and we don't really fear what people are going to say when we behave this way, because we are just true to ourselves. I think another thing, it's, these things that I also teach in my coaching, things such as conflict resolution. Sometimes we are scared to do those things or confront people, even though confront is not a good word, but sometimes we are just scared to speak our truth because we're just fearing, oh God, how are they going to perceive me? What are they going to think of me? But at the end of the day, if you don't really speak your truth, you're going to end up suffering. So it's always best to just speak your truth and just be true to who you are. And obviously, we always do these things, making sure that we are polite and we are not,
stereotyped, right? Because we're afraid of being that angry black woman or aggressive. And, I've been called things in my career, problem child. So I think there's always going to be this fear barrier around speaking up. But I feel like when you're there, you will take the necessary action. And remember that when you speak up, you're not just speaking up for yourself. You're speaking up for generations that come after you.
True. And others around you as well, because sometimes we might be, facing an issue in the workplace, and if no one is going to speak up, no one is going to get help. So I think speaking up respectfully, it always solves the problem. Because I honestly do not think that there are bosses who are that horrible, that when you speak up, they're just going to, I know there are some who victimize people, but really in the main, bosses, there are some people are not even aware of the things that they do. And when you speak up, they acknowledge that and then they change. I hope organizations politicians don't really victimize people for speaking up. But yeah, I think it's really important, and you're just owning your truth. And I think it doesn't even apply in the workplace, but everywhere, like
Correct.
even in
Correct.
relationships, how we interact with other people at home, you always just have to speak and make your feelings known. It's not a weakness to be vulnerable and make your feelings known. So even in the workplace, if something doesn't make you feel comfortable or good,
Yes.
you're just being honest, you're being truthful that no, this doesn't really make me feel comfortable. This action doesn't really make me feel good. So you're just
Yes.
communicating that there's no dishonesty about that. You're just being authentic. So I feel
Yeah.
that's really important.
What do you do in a situation where, whatever you're speaking up about, something that is true to yourself, isn't received well by the party receiving it? What are some of your career coaching tips in that instance?
So I normally advise people to make an appointment firstly. So if you really have something that you really need to address with your boss,
Right.
because it's usually a boss,
Right.
someone that you report to. So I always ask people to just make sure that they arrange a specific time to just say that, no, I just want to meet with you to discuss some things, and to also just write down the points, the things that you want to discuss, so that you're not, so that you don't drift and speak about other things.
Yes.
So I feel like that in itself, it's important to make sure that you get sort of your desired response. But then if really you speaking to someone and they are still just not responding to your work needs or whatever it is that you were addressing, then all workplaces have, escalation measures. I know that it's a difficult thing, but then if it's really something serious that you are really, really uncomfortable with, then you have to just escalate to, the structures, HR, etc.,
Correct.
etc. But I find that usually when I coach people and I tell them to just have that one-on-one, request that one-on-one with your boss, I find that that helps. There's a lot of change that comes after that.
Wow.
And I find that my mentees, they always say that, no, even my boss, he actually appreciated that I had
Wow.
this session, which is something that they would not typically do, because people normally just have this idea that, oh God, my boss is horrible. This is what he's going to say. They just preempt what their bosses are going to say, etc., etc., whereas it's not the case. I had an instance where I advised one of my mentees to have that one-on-one session and voice out their concerns. They were having a situation where they were just overloaded with work. 2 people had resigned and they were just loaded with work, and it was just, it was toxic for her. And then I said, but have you spoken to your boss about it? And then that lady said, no, but he's going to say this and this and that. And then I was like, how do you know? She was like, well, because he's just like that. And I was like, no, you just have to speak to him and see. And then when she came back, she was like, he actually appreciated the fact that she raised that concern. Unfortunately, they didn't get staff the next day, but
Yeah.
he did tell her that they are aware of the issue and they are doing, they've got some steps to fill those gaps. So I noticed that when people have those one-on-one sessions, it actually does help. But then when you do raise concerns and your boss doesn't do anything, there's always those other levels, HR, where you can escalate.
I think from my experience of 15 years of doing this in various companies, I think it's really the culture that dictates how an organization responds to when someone is unhappy or someone feels like they're not treated fairly. The culture is a huge part of defining. It literally flows downwards. So I've just, from my experience, noted that, there are some companies that do this
one
very
is
well.
true.
They do it very well in terms of you raise something, it's taken seriously, it's given the utmost priority. And then there are some companies that just, have a very different way of dealing with things.
Yeah, I know.
And I think that's where it's important for you to find alignment with the space that you find yourself in.
Yeah, and that's why with that, if I'm dealing with cultures like that, I normally just advise people, if your company really is not addressing your issues, maybe then it's time to look for something else. Because you are right, there are cultures where even if you raise your concerns, unfortunately, they just do not address it. Even, the leadership, they're just not going to address it. And if you're faced with that situation, then I think that would be the time where you just need to look elsewhere. because it seems like then you and your company or wherever you're working, you're just not aligned. So you're
Yes.
definitely correct there.
I appreciate that feedback, but I think in South Africa at this point, it is very difficult to get a job. So, what advice do you have for someone who is, in the so-called, and I'm just paraphrasing, your toxic environments that I'm sure you hear about every day when you coach?
I know that.
What are the kind of realistic tips? You can't be without a job because many of us don't come from privileged backgrounds, right? We don't come with the silver spoon in our mouth. So we need to hold on to those jobs and kind of try and make it bearable for ourselves. How do we do that?
I think those are the things that you now do outside of work. I think it's important how, we just try to separate work life and our, normal life. But I think while you're in that situation, you really do need to look for a way out. So do apply. And I normally like referring people to these professional people who just do your CV and they help you with professionalism and they help you prepare for interviews, because that puts you in a better position to actually get another job. So while you are doing that and while you are in your toxic company, just try and separate during that period, separate work from your life. Make sure that once you're out of work, you're really doing things that make you happy, that make you forget about your toxic work environment. And I also feel like, for example, there are people who stay alone, young professionals who stay alone. I remember there was a time where I was just feeling like I'm in a toxic situation myself at work. And it really helped that at that time I was just not staying alone. I was staying with my sister.
Right.
And so always being around, loved ones, family, it also helps. So I think people just have to be intentional about spending time with family, loved ones, friends, and making the most of weekends. That's what I normally tell people.
Yes.
I know that there's sometimes a lot of workload where we just work long hours, but I normally advise them rather work those extra hours during the week where if you knock off at 4, you'll continue working, but then just make your weekends count. Just, do things on the weekend. I know with us Black people, it's sort of a culture, not all of them, especially in the rural areas. Saturdays, people they run errands and they clean the house. They say, no, Saturday it's for cleaning the house, spring cleaning. And I always advise people, but no, you can get someone else to do that.
Correct.
Saturday, we work so hard during the week. Saturday, we really need to connect with the people that we love. We really need to just connect with friends, go out there, do things. You know what you enjoy doing. If you enjoy hiking, you can just go for a hike, whatever it is. But just make sure that you do something on the weekend that's just going to make you forget about, that toxic situation. So for me, I think that's one thing that's important, just making sure that your mental health is sound while you're in that toxic situations, because toxic work environments, they definitely do affect your mental health. And it's
There's no doubt about that.
yeah.
There's no doubt that can be argued.
Yeah.
I think people underestimate how damaging, how brutal these kind of situations can be. How emotionally draining it is to find the strength to put yourself into that environment every single day.
Yeah. So I think, they definitely do affect mental health. And I think, again, when you are in that situation, again, therapy is also something that's important that helps you to cope with the toxic work environment. So I would advise anyone who's undergoing that, where they're just in a toxic work environment, just go to therapy, because they're just going to help you to deal with, these personalities, because it's the personalities that we're dealing with. It's not the whole organization.
Correct.
Sometimes it's specific, it's just specific personalities. So therapy will help you to just be able to deal with that type of, personality, and not look at things personally as if, it's a personal attack.
Yes.
You just get that perspective through therapy as well.
Thank you so much, Zinhle. It's been an absolute honor to have you. Before I let you go, what is your final advice for our boss babes of South Africa? Something that they can hold on to, a quote, a thought that they can refer to when, they're going through something difficult.
A quote. I don't have a quote, but I think just never stop learning. We just mentioned, we just spoke about toxic work environments. But even that situation, let's say you go through that situation, just never stop learning. That situation is also going to teach you something. Because with me as well, some of the things that I coach about, it's things that I've went through. When I went through a toxic environment, I would coach people and say, this is how you need to deal with it. So for me, the most important thing and my advice to boss babes, just never stop learning. Let every experience just be a learning experience. Don't look at it as a challenge. I think you said that, but let it be a learning experience. So if we just have that mindset of learning, then yeah.
Thank you so much, Zinhle. It's been an honor, and here's to many, many more.
Yes, thank you so much.